Hi, we're your hosts. I'm Himen Bekkele.
And I'm Haset Bekkele.
And you're listening to Hot Topics.
As many of you might know, in the past couple of years, Black Lives Matter has been a very popular movement for many different reasons.
More recently, teaching race in schools has been a hot topic, blowing up on social media and even being taken to a legal level.
So today, on the second episode of Hot Topics, we're talking about the critical race theory debate.
We'll discuss why it began and what caused it to begin.
Inform you on what the debate and the critical race theory even is.
We'll also talk about whether or not this is a new debate.
And we will go over what both sides of the argument are.
Before we talk about the debate, let's discuss the critical race theory. What is it?
Well, the critical race theory is actually a way of looking at America's history specifically through the lens of racism.
But does this include everything that has to do with race and racism, or does the theory revolve all around one central topic?
Well, this is where the controversial part comes in. The critical race theory, or CRT for short, focuses on the idea of systematic racism in America.
So what the CRT does is, it says that America uses white privilege and uses systematic racism.
Exactly. In fact, AL News wrote, and I quote, "It centers on the idea that racism is systematic in the nation's institutions and that they function to maintain the dominance of white people in society."
You might think that the theory is new and was probably created amidst the protests for Black Lives Matter and the movement, but it's actually been around for over 40 years.
This theory was actually created in the mid-1970s by American legal scholars.
Some examples of these people are Derek Bell,
Alan Freeman,
Kimberly Crenshaw,
Richard Delgado,
Cheryl Harris,
Charles R. Lawrence III,
Marie Matsuda,
and Patricia J. William.
These 8 scholars, along with other activists, actually created this theory to find out why the civil rights movement was losing power and momentum.
Similar to what the CRT is now, the approach focalized features of the legal system that serve to preserve race-based oppression and white privilege.
Now let's talk about the debate itself.
The ongoing CRT debate applies the CRT in schools.
The debate is whether or not the critical race theory should be taught in schools.
I actually understand why this is a very controversial topic. Systematic racism on its own is extremely controversial, but now the debate over whether or not it should be taught to school children is definitely going to be controversial.
That's exactly what I was thinking. There are people who believe that systematic racism exists and people who believe that it doesn't. So trying to teach it in schools will definitely be a challenge.
Surprisingly, this debate has caught legal attention.
At least 26 states have proposed bills to limit or completely prohibit the teaching of critical race theory.
These states include Idaho, Florida, and Kentucky.
It's most important to note that there's little to no evidence that the theory is even being taught in most schools.
So what exactly kickstarted this debate? Well, it could have been the heavy attention that's being put on racism and the Black Lives Matter movement.
It could have also been a result of politicians' attention on the critical race theory.
Now that we have explained what the debate is,
what the critical race theory is,
and discovered the history behind the CRT, let's discuss the two sides of this argument.
First, we have the side that is against teaching CRT.
So this side believes that the critical race theory should not be taught to students.
But what is their reasoning behind banning the theory from schools?
Well, their argument is that teaching how systematic racism is used in America and the American government creates a tension between races. This group is also working towards getting the bills mentioned earlier signed.
PBS NewsHour interviewed parents and students about their stance in the debate.
Here's what Ian Pryor, a parent who does not support teaching CRT in schools, had to say.
We're not about not teaching history. We're about teaching history in an objective way that is not represented as America is systemically racist.
Next, we have the group that believes that critical race theory should be taught in schools.
They believe that it is not right to filter history and teach students just the good parts of history.
This is what a supporter of teaching critical race theory in schools had to say.
this is American history. All of it should be taught in a certain context and also age appropriate.
Today on Hot Topics, we talked about the critical race theory,
We dove into its history
discussed what the conflict was,
and explained what the two different sides were.
We'd love to hear what you have to say about our informative episodes.
You can find our contact information in the description below.
Be sure to subscribe to find out when the next episode of Hot Topics is out.
This is Heyman,
And Hassett,
signing off.